Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I know normally I bring you math videos. Today we're going to be bringing you something that has to do a lot with math, and that is the Disney Sorcerer's Arena tier list maker. Tier list maker, really? You're going to make a tier list out of this? And now, don't get me wrong, I notice a lot of the people that tend to make content around Disney Sorcerer's Arena tend to be either big names or people trying to get people interested in the hobby. I am going to do more of an analysis of each of these characters um, and see how they interact with one another in a manner that is purely based off of what I have seen them be able to do in combatants against other characters or other teams. So, yes, this is subjective, but also I'm going to be using a lot of what I've seen throughout the course of playing up through almost, I think I'm at level 63 or something like that. I'm not sure. But, and there will be some characters that I don't know how to judge, that I won't be able to judge. That's why I have this column here for can't judge yet. Um, I will give my initial review impressions for those characters, what I feel, where I feel like they may lie, although for the most part I will not be able to judge them very accurately. So let's get started. I think most of the characters that I won't be able to judge very accurately are going to be toward the end, and some of the characters that I can judge pretty accurately are going to be towards the beginning. And again, personal impression, personal thoughts. Feel free to give me your tier list down below or your impressions, your thoughts on these characters. You may have never even heard of this game. That's entirely okay. I just want to be able to get people excited about this sort of stuff. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Um, so each character, I'm going to give a bit of an analysis as to why I believe they're in that position. So Aladdin. Now I will have to scroll while I'm also picking up these spots. So I think Aladdin goes pretty solidly in the top of toward the top of B. Aladdin has a lot of offensive capabilities, but also a lot of defensive capabilities. His carpet allows for damaging numerous characters while also slowing them down, adding to both the offensive and defensive capabilities. And his main attack special, which is only 3 magic, does a whole lot of damage and has the capability to bring in Jasmine for most often a second extra additional attack, which will hurt decently bad. But the big thing there is that he's going to be able to get evasion on top of that, so he guarantees a dodge after that. So overall, a pretty average character. It makes sense to put him in the starter set of characters that you get started with. Um, Anger, I think, is a little bit lower than Aladdin, maybe in the C tier. Anger has some really good abilities. You ruin pizza, as well as his hothead ability. They both do a tremendous amount of damage for what they do, and something that's keeping him from being worse than where he is at C is that anytime he takes too much damage, he will cleanse himself and deal a moderate amount of damage to all enemies. I don't think it's quite enough to put him any higher, though. I think he's a very average character. Once he's sort of played his hand with his two main abilities, he's kind of out of luck for at that point because his basic attack is not tremendous. It's good, but it's not tremendous. But C. Um, Ariel. I'm going to put Ariel at the bottom of C. She is really slow. She's really slow. Although her abilities are pretty awesome. She can purge and deal a lot of damage with one of her abilities, and she can heal the entire team for a significant amount of health. Plus, her leadership ability is also okay. It gives some extra health to all your characters on your team, which is always a good thing, but it's not amazing. There's some really good leadership abilities out there that are overshadowed by it. Triton's Boon is okay at best, but I think her where she shines is in her abilities and and in being a moderately okay support despite her bad speed. Blue is pretty bad. I won't sugarcoat it. Blue's pretty bad. He can give somebody offense up. He can give a few people offense up, and he can uh, damage the entire enemy team and heal your entire team for a minuscule amount of damage compared to what level you're at, for the most part. And he's incredibly slow. His coconut ability is pretty bad as well. Um, the only saving grace for him is that he does unique stuff, right? He can give offense up, and he can, um, which not a lot, not there's not a ton of characters that give offense up, but those that do, are much better than Blue. You're much better off picking somebody else other than Blue. Barley's kind of in the same situation, except he's sort of at the bottom of D rather than the top of E. So Barley has really good abilities, but again, he is very slow. Getting him to actually take his turn is very painful, and he is not a priority. He is not a priority target. You'll see that most of what I put into higher tiers are characters that are high priority targets. You want to attack them. Barley is almost a character that's the opposite of that. You don't want to attack him because once you've gotten it down to just him, his basic attack doesn't do anything because his basic attack summons your allies to attack for you. So Barley is not a priority target, and he's not very fast. Though his abilities are good, Guinevere can remove taunt, and removing taunt is one of the strongest functionalities that you could possibly get in any ability. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it can decrease magic, which is also a little cherry on top. Um, and his one ability gives a guaranteed crit strike and increases magic. Good for basically Ian. It's good for characters that have low magic and you can guarantee get a big strikeout like Buzz, for example. If you were using Buzz, you could guarantee that your next attack is going to be a special ability that's going to do a lot of damage, and that guaranteed crit strike is going to have a high impact. But it's very much a lightning in a bottle sort of thing. You need to be prepared for that sort of situation. You need to plan around it, and that's not always the best thing. Big Bad Wolf, I'm gonna put an A. Big Bad Wolf has incredible abilities, one of which deals a whole lot of damage to everybody on the opposing team. Another ability that deals a tremendous amount of damage and heals a tremendous amount of health back. And the only thing I think that pushes him from B up to A is the fact that his passive ability permits him the capability to deal a significant amount. I mean, like, I think it's 25%, a significant amount of extra damage to hero teams. So he is niche in that sense. He's built for the sake of damage, of doing very well against teams that have heroes in them. If your opponent builds up a team full of villains, then he's not going to be as effective. But I found that even his basic attack, on turns whenever he doesn't have a special move lined up, are tremendously strong. He's also really fast. Don't quote me on this. I believe he's Kingdom, so he also benefits from Shan Yu's leadership ability, which is fantastic. Um, Anytime a character is Kingdom, it automatically makes them a little bit better just because of Shan Yu's speed up ability. Although we've seen over the course of the past couple months a lot more increases in characters that provide extra speed to other characters through a leadership ability. So that's becoming less and less valuable over the course of time. So I wouldn't be surprised if Big Bad Wolf started to be not as good in the near future. Bo Peep I can't judge yet. I don't have enough information to judge Bo Peep. If I had to take a complete guess, I would say B, C, somewhere around there. I could be completely wrong. I've never seen her used in a fight, uh, player versus player. That might just be because she's terribly difficult to get, and also has to work with. She probably has synergies with Toy Story characters, which a lot of the Toy Story heroes are not fantastic. But speaking of Toy Story heroes, um, Buzz, Buzz is okay. Buzz is okay. He's not as good as Anger. He's a little bit better than Ariel, Buzz is okay. Buzz is very decidedly average. His the thing that's interesting about him is that his abilities cost very little magic, so you're almost always going to be using his special ability. You don't have to rely on his basic attack all that much, which is great because his basic attack isn't that great, right? His basic attack doesn't deal nearly as much damage as, say, Aladdin's basic attack or Big Bad Wolf's basic attack, but it does have the capability of follow up, and it's good against some characters that have lesser defense because it is a multi-hit attack. Toys Unite is a pretty bad passive ability because you don't usually want to be using characters like Woody and Jesse, which I'll get to later on, but long story short, they're not very good. Um, Calhoun. Sergeant Calhoun. I don't have a ton of experience with Sergeant Calhoun, but from what I can get from her, she's also in C, a little bit worse than Buzz. Definitely better than Ariel, but a little bit worse than Buzz. She has some abilities that allow you to play defensively, but she's an offensive character. Her strategy is effectively put up a taunt wall and assist any downtown hero. So she has to she makes best use out of being put on a team with downtown heroes, much like Buzz. So she would work well with Buzz in that regard. Um, but I don't know. Her special ability is it just deals a lot of damage, but it's a multi-hit attack, so it deals specifically a lot of damage to characters that don't have a lot of defense. So she takes advantage of defense, but then there's also abilities that ignore defense. So she is good against characters that have defense in some regards. So she doesn't really fit anywhere, and she doesn't really cause any status afflictions or get a whole bunch of positive attributes herself. She just kind of deals some damage after putting up a taunt wall, which is it's okay. It's all right. Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck. He's solid. He's solid. I would put him. I definitely wouldn't put him in B if I could fix this. There we go. He's above Anger, I think. His abilities are pretty solid. Um, I don't know a ton about him, but I do know that anytime I've played against him, he has been very painful. His basic attack is so strong. I think one of his special abilities is something along the lines of like make somebody vulnerable, which isn't great. Um, but he has a surprisingly strong basic attack, which is always welcome. Dash. Dash is at the bottom of A, I would say. He's very fast. He deals a ton of damage. So why isn't he better, right? Right? He deals a ton of damage and he's very fast. Well, first of all, being very fast is good because that means that you get the capability to use your spells a lot faster. But being very fast doesn't really help unless the rest of your team is also fast to boot. So Dash getting a lot of turns all by himself isn't always the best of things unless you have somebody that, say, can keep up with him. Because what ends up happening is you just end up getting a lot of basic attacks in with Dash. Where his special abilities, I might be wrong on this, but his special abilities are relatively high magic cost. Um, so you can't use them very often. Most of the time, whenever you're getting your extra turns in with Dash, you're just going to be running up and hitting them. He is a priority target, which is why I put him in the bottom of A. He's a very high priority target. You want to defeat him as fast as you possibly can so that he doesn't get the capability to use his special abilities again, because his special abilities are very strong. Compare that to somebody like Big Bad Wolf, where his basic attack remains solid throughout the course of a fight. He's not as heavy of a priority target because of the fact that by the time he's already done his other special moves, the damage has already been done. You usually don't want to attack Big Bad Wolf first because of the fact that you can heal back up. Dash doesn't really have a way to heal back up. He just has a way to dodge attacks. He also doesn't have a ton of synergies, right? The Kingdom synergy with Big Bad Wolf Again, I might be completely wrong on that, but I feel like he's gone faster when in fights with Shan Yu. Um, but Dash is a downtown hero, which makes him not quite as, I guess you could pair him with somebody like um, Judy Hopps, right? And then you could make him dodge more, which would work well with his special ability. Um, but that's really the extent of it. Davy Jones. Davy Jones is so powerful. He's not the strongest character in the game, but he is definitely an S tier character. Um, his one special ability hits so hard and silences, and silence is one of the most powerful abilities in the entire game if you can find a way to make it last for a really long time. Now, unfortunately, Davy Jones' silence only lasts for, I believe it's one turn. It might go up to 2 turns later on in his when he levels up. But from what I've seen, it's only one turn, which is usually spent um, beating down the taunt wall on your team. His other magic special ability effectively says to your opponent, you want this teammate to die. So what you could do is you could put it on a character that is a high priority for them to keep alive, and then not hit that target at all. The disadvantages with that ability come in the form of when you're not actively utilizing the character yourself, right? So if you put him up against in a defensive arena, he's not quite as good when used by an AI as when used by you yourself. But I'm assuming that all these characters are being used by the player themselves, and whenever you can act with Davy Jones, whoever you put the curse on, I don't actually know what it's called. Whoever you put the curse on is in massive trouble, and it's very important that you put it on somebody who is flanking some very important high priority targets. And his dead man's chest, it used to be better. I will say this much: it used to be even stronger than it is now, but it's still very strong. I mean, if you leave his chest alone for too long, and by that I mean if you don't spend basically an entire extra round doing all your damage to the chest, then he will spawn in again with a pretty healthy chunk amount of health and 2 more lackeys, which is bananas. The fact that he can do that every time he dies, and it's not just a one-time thing, is way too strong. Davy Jones is really good. He can also summon extra minions whenever random characters die. Sometimes that one's not as reliable, but it still makes him a high priority target. Again, the characters that are going to be high up on the list are the characters that are a high priority target that you want to take out, with exceptions. All right, Demona. Demona is in this weird state where she has good abilities and she's decent, but she just doesn't have a lot of synergy. I would say she's a little bit better than Buzz, not quite as good as Anger, if I could put her there. Yeah. Her recite ability where she can deal some extra damage at the beginning of her turn is pretty solid. It's a surprisingly large amount of damage and has continuous damage associated with it. She can deal damage to every enemy on the other side, and she can deal a pretty significant amount of damage to a target and their adjacent characters, which is very similar in structure to Elsa, but Demona is definitely not as good as Elsa. If given the choice between using Demona and Elsa, you would use Elsa every single time. I can't think of a situation where I would prefer Demona over Elsa. Elsa just does what Demona does, but better. Okay, Dr. Facilier. Dr. Facilier is one of the best characters that has a ridiculously low speed. Anytime anything dies, your entire team heals his healing amount. I think at 100% too, which is incredible. That's the best heal in the game. give him any team that has characters that give him quite literally any team that can summon minions, and additionally, if possible, also can taunt. Right? We already talked about Calhoun and her taunting minion. If you can summon any minions, um, you want Dr. Facilier on that team because even when the minions die, you still get health increases. I don't know why he's labeled as an offense character. That might have changed since the last patch, but I think he was labeled as an offense character. He definitely should not be an offense character. He should be a support 100%. He has the speed to match a support. He has the abilities to match a support. He has, everything about him says support. He can transmute characters into a frog, which is incredible if you have the capability to increase the duration of negative effects in characters such as Chunk. Um, and not to mention his three magic ability. Not his four magic ability or his five magic ability. His three magic ability gives a character taunt for 2 turns. Taunt for 2 turns. That is so good. That it cannot be understated how good um, taunt for 2 turns on an ability with 3 magic that you can target anybody with. It doesn't even have to be him. It doesn't have to be a specific character. It can be your defensive character that you rely on for defense. Um, that is such a good feature to be able to give anybody taunt for 2 turns. And lifesteal. It doesn't need to. I personally think that the ability is good without the shield and the lifesteal. Just giving somebody taunt for 2 turns is enough as it is. But the lifesteal and the shield are just some cherries on top, which is always welcome. He's not any better than this because of the fact that he still has 80 speed, so he does not take a ton of turns. Right, you have to give him a speed up a lot of the time to make him take more than the amount of turns that he would normally be able to take. But a 3 magic spell, if he can get 4 turns, you can give somebody taunt for 4 turns. That's incredible. Okay, Mrs. Incredible. Speaking of incredible, Mrs. Incredible. Um, I would put Mrs. Incredible at the bottom of B, lower than Dr. Facilier, not quite as high as not quite up to par with Aladdin, a little bit better than Darkwing Duck. She has some solid damage. Um, yeah, she has some solid damage. That's really all I can. That's really all I can say is that she has some solid damage. Um, every time I've played against I haven't had personal experience playing as Elastigirl, but I have experience playing against Elastigirl, and anytime I've played against her, she has been a high priority target. Um, Not the highest of priority targets, but at least high enough that she is obnoxious and I need to take her out. Frozone, I don't have enough information about Frozone, but at last I remember, he was an 80 speed character that automatically makes him like C or lower. I think he can. I think he has the capability to stasis somebody, but why would you want to stasis somebody with Frozone whenever you can stasis somebody with somebody faster, like say Pain and Panic, who's just better? Um, I think Frozone might have some interactions with some synergies with the Incredibles, but other than that, I'm not sure. Um, Gaston, Gaston is pretty bad. I won't sugar. He's better. He's better than Blue because he's faster, and his one ability that has 3 magic deals a significant chunk of damage, even for a defense character, and has the capability of blind. But other than that ability, his taunt ability is not very good. I think his taunt ability says he gains taunt for a turn, and everybody else gets some speed meter or something. At later levels, those two abilities don't get much stronger. Um, Gaston is not very good, and he, for some reason, is this weird combination of defense and offense whenever he's supposed to be a defense archetype. So keep him as a defense archetype. There's characters that do a better job of both offense and defense, like, for example, Aladdin, or say, for example, Gontu, which we'll get to later on. Genie. Genie is he's right around where Ian and where Barley is. I think he's a little bit better than Barley. I think Genie's a little bit better than Barley. He has the Firecracker. Both of his abilities are 3 magic, which means that he's more often than not going to be using a special ability on one of his turns. He's probably not going to be spending a lot of time doing basic attacks. But that's okay, because his basic attack gets pretty good towards the end of a fight. So by the time you've used his 2 magic abilities, um, basic attacking isn't terrible because he's probably duplicated at that point. Genie, the thing about Genie is you usually just want to target Genie first. He's not dangerous, right? He himself is not super dangerous. His Firecracker ability is decent, and it silences somebody, and it's only 3 magic and deals a significant amount of damage. And his hat trick ability is really bad, but let's put it this way: it's a little bit better. It's a little bit better whenever you're on a team. Whenever you are actively using Genie, and like I said, I would judge these characters based off of you playing as them. But you really only want to use the hat trick as a hat trick, right? You only want to use it whenever a specific scenario comes up where you have a character that has tons and tons of negative attributes, so you can flip them over to the opponent's side. I believe that's what it does. Either that, or it flips them into positive attributes. I forget which one of the two. Either way, you're looking for a character that is very beaten up, and you want to flip that onto your opponent. It's good for a 3 magic ability. The thing that's keeping Genie down is his speed. His speed is not very high. He doesn't get a lot of turns. He's not going to be very strong. His basic attack is pretty decent when it comes to, using duplicate. Um, and finally, the final sort of thing that makes him interesting is his invulnerability. That's the reason why you want to target Genie first, is I don't believe he's able to make himself invulnerable. But it's a very simple solution because it's a very simple solution to just defeat Genie first, because he has support stats instead of defense stats. So it's going to be relatively easy to take him down, even if he is the first target. Um, when If you want a character that silences, you should use somebody who and deals a lot of damage. You should use somebody like, I don't know, Davy Jones, or I mean, even Randall can silence somebody. I believe that's what he does, is silences somebody, and deals a lot of damage. Um, but yeah, there's characters that do what he does, but better. I think that he does have that invulnerability, which is a saving grace, but that just means that you usually decide to attack Genie first. It's good on a team where you have a lot of characters that have those sort of like, where you have a lot of high priority characters, and you're saying, okay, now attack Genie first anyways, because otherwise that character's just going to survive the blows. Hades. Hades is another S tier character, even better than Davy Jones. Hades, his special abilities are both incredible. They both deal a traumatic amount of damage to the to a number of characters on the enemy team. And when you get down to basic attacks, here's the conundrum that you run up against when fighting against a Hades. You can leave him alone, in which case he'll just sling some pretty solid basic attacks at you after his first 2 turns, which he will always get 2 turns. He not always, but he'll almost always get 2 turns. He will almost always use his first 2 abilities because he's really fast. He also has a significant amount of health. So the thing is, you could leave him alone, in which case he'll sling some basic attacks at you every once in a while, which will deal a pretty healthy chunk of damage to your team. Or you could focus on him first. Now, if you focus on him first, he gets into an unbridled rage, in which case you want to make sure that you're attacking him every opportunity that you get. But then if somebody puts up a taunt wall, then you're in trouble. So basically, if you're playing up against any team where Hades is on the team and they have 2 taunt characters, both of which go at different times in the turn order, you're basically out of luck, because as soon as you put him into an unbridled rage, they're going to taunt. Um, and as soon as you get the opportunity to hit him again, somebody else is going to taunt. Um, and with characters that have both, and with taunting characters that are really good at defending, keeping him in that unbridled rage is a bad idea. So what you do instead is you just leave him alone until the last leg of the fight, which is okay because of the fact that his magic abilities all cost a very they all cost a lot of magic. I think they're 4 and 6 respectively. Um, but yeah, his abilities cost a lot of magic, so you leave him alone until the end. But he also has unstoppable once he gets past a certain point, which means that he has the capability to respawn after dying. I think it's unstoppable. I might be wrong about that. Oh, it's not unstoppable. It's undefeatable. That's what it is. Undefeatable, which is whenever he would die, he would instead gain a little bit of health and not die. That means that you have to spend at least 2 turns defeating him, even if he has 1 health left. That's incredible. And to boot, he has a lot of health, right? Like, he didn't need to have a lot of health. He didn't need to have a lot of speed, but he does. He has a lot of speed and he has a lot of health, which is incredible. He is so powerful. He's not the best character in the game, though. Uh, I don't think we'll get to the best character in the game for a while. Captain Hook. Captain Hook is pretty bad. He's kind of worse than Barley and Genie. I think Genie's a little bit better than Captain Hook. Captain Hook, he has a lot of speeds, and because he's an offense character, he has the speed to match being an offense character, but he doesn't dish out the damage like he should. One of his abilities is to give the opponent vulnerable. That could have been spent attacking. Why would you give a character whose sole role it is to deal damage an ability that deals more damage for the next attack against that character? Chances are that vulnerable character is going to be the taunt wall character, which is really bad. And why does that ability cost 4 magic? It's really not that great. I guess it can call some characters to assist, and it also gives him an ability. But you know what would make that ability much? It gives him a positive attribute. But you know what would make him getting a positive attribute much better? If the character he was using against wasn't taunted. And chances are the character is going to be taunted most of the time, so most of the time you're going to end up giving your offensive character taunt with your ability. That's really bad. A gift from Wendy is kind of decent, though. It deals a healthy chunk of damage, but, the incapability to cause status afflictions and the incapability to dish out damage and defend in a manner and have some form of defense along with his offense, it's not very good at all. Hopper's really bad. Hopper's in bottom of E. He's not F, I don't think, but he's really bad. He's a defense character. I don't think he actually has the capability to gain taunt. I think he might have one ability that costs 4 magic that gives him taunt, but for whatever reason, his abilities, which aren't very good, I think they inflict blind or something like that to one character, costs a ridiculous amount of magic, like 4 or 5 or something like that. And his other one just hits everybody for some damage, I think. I might be wrong on that, but I've never seen Hopper be used to dish out a lot of damage, cause a lot of defense. He's never been a thorn in my side. He's always been super easy to take care of. All right, the Horned King. The Horned King is a solid character. Not quite as good as Big Bad Wolf, I don't think, but a little bit better than Dash. Similar reasoning as to why Big Bad Wolf and the Horned King are alongside one another. The Horned King does damage to a number of characters that they're all flanking each other and heals an incredibly high amount. And I think that's the ability that only costs 4 magic. So it's possible that you could use that ability more than once. So what that means is while he's also a priority target to attack, you usually don't want to hit him first because hitting him first doesn't really do anything whenever he just heals it right back up to start off with. Unless you can get him before he even takes a turn, which doesn't happen a lot of the time. His Cauldron summons a minion, and his Cauldron makes him all that more threatening, and his Cauldron has the capability to purge enemy um, ben- positive attributes, which is great. That's amazing. Um, Not quite as good as Big Bad Wolf, I don't think, because Big Bad Wolf, I think, deals a little bit more damage, and he doesn't have to spend a turn summoning a Cauldron. He has one more extra ability that deals damage right off the bat. Um, uh, the Horn King is a bit more of a slow burn, whereas the Big Bad Wolf is more of a punch him right in the face right from the beginning, and keep punching throughout the time. All right, Ian. Ian, controversial, but I put Ian at the bottom of B. I personally think most people would see Ian as lower than that. I think Ian is pretty good though. He has he's the only character I know. He's the only character I know that packs the biggest wallop I have ever seen in both of his magical abilities. I mean, we're talking these magical abilities deal so much damage, and they cause so many status afflictions. And his basic attack just spreads the status afflictions for as long as you could possibly imagine, and has the capability to blind. Um, he is good on so many levels. His only detriment, I think personally, is the fact that he's so heavily reliant on Barley, who is not great. Which, hey, that's pretty accurate to the movie. Ian's always relying on Barley for help whenever Barley doesn't really know what he's doing. But he knows that looking to Barley for help is just what he needed to prop him up a little bit, which I think is poetic in a way. But at the same time, I think Barley is kind of low tier B. I know most people would probably put him lower, but just the fact that he can pack a wallop 2 turns in a row. I forget if his Thunderseer ability starts off with all but one or all but two magic. I think it starts off with all but two magic. That might be the one thing holding him back, is that he can't do it 2 turns in a row. He can't just hit really hard for both of his turns in a row, um, which is sad. But those abilities are so good, and give him somebody like Merlin on his team, on the team, and you can cast both those abilities again almost immediately. Great. Jack Jack. I don't know a ton about Jack Jack, but I'm going to try and not put him in the can't judge yet spot. I'm going to say Jack Jack is slightly better than um, Dash. From what I've seen, Jack Jack deals a lot of damage and causes random status afflictions. He kind of just does random abilities, right? He sometimes he does one thing, sometimes he does another. Um, Again, I might be completely wrong about this, but I've seen him use more than two special abilities. That might just be his basic attack with flavor, but I've seen him do more than two special abilities, which leads me to believe that he's kind of a wild card. Um, he's the thing keeping him from being at the top of A, because of the fact that he deals so much damage, is that he's kind of random. He doesn't do exactly what you want him to do at all times. Again, I've never played as Jack Jack. I might be completely wrong in this analysis, but from what I've seen, he just kind of seems to do random stuff, and a lot of damage gets dealt. And he's also really fast too. Um, Not quite as fast as Dash though. Dash is more about coming out of the gate swinging, and Jack Jack is more about being a threat throughout the course of the fight. Jack Skellington, I also don't know a lot about Jack Skellington, but I will take a guess based upon a couple fights that I've seen him in, and I'm going to put him at the top of D. He's been useful. That's the extent to which I can see him. He's been useful, and Zero has been kind of obnoxious at times. But he is too slow. He doesn't take a lot of turns. And I think somebody like I believe her name is Sally, also from The Nightmare Before Christmas, is a lot better. Jack Sparrow. Jack Sparrow's neat. He can charm people. and he can hit everybody. I think Jack Sparrow is just. Excuse me. I think he's solid. He's not fantastic, but he's solid. Um, he's a good choice. Yeah, his coin flip ability is a bit random. You know, doesn't always give you what you want. Um, but he's solid. Maybe a little bit higher. Maybe like let's move around this a little bit and say that uh, Elastigirl is a little bit lower. Maybe put Jack Sparrow a little higher. I just rated Jack Skellington, so I'm getting Jack Sparrow and Jack Skellington confused. Jafar, I don't know anything about Jafar. I'm sorry. I can't judge Jafar at all. Um, Jangles. Jangles is really bad. I think he's a little bit better than Hopper, but Jangles is really bad. Don't worry, there are F tier characters, which we're getting to at least one of them very soon. But there are F tier characters, and Jangles is not very good at all. He can taunt for 1 turn out of 4. For some reason, his abilities all cost a ridiculous amount of magic. I think if you made his abilities cost less magic, he would be okay. Right? He would be okay. He wouldn't be good. He'd be okay. Right, Jasmine. I mean, okay. So a little bit more about Jangles. His balloons are so random. Like they don't give you what you want. They just do whatever they feel like. And I think the negative status afflictions that they deal are all incredibly different. I think one's like defense down, one is offense down, one is something completely different like blind or something. They make no sense. And there's no consistency to what he does. The balloon, they don't deal a lot of damage. He's not really a threat. He's not taunted for all that long. His only thing that's nice about him is that he has a lot of health. Jasmine. Jasmine is one of the best characters in the game just because of Raja. That's just it. She's one of the best characters in the game just because of Raja. She can summon a taunt wall for 2 turns that has defense up. That's enough all by itself. You could get rid of her other ability, and she'd still be a solid. She could just not even have the acrobatic assault ability. She could not have the one that gives her stealth, or a dodge for evasion. That costs 3 magic. She could not even have that ability. If she just had Raja, she would still be a solid choice. She would still be one of my top picks. Taunting for 2 turns out of 4 means the equivalence of taunting for 1 turn out of 2, except there's a little bit less flexibility. So basically, and on top of that, it's not like she is the defense source. She summons a defense source. She is creating health for your team. Incredible. It's amazing. And she's a kingdom teammate. She has synergy with Shan Yu, which is incredible because Shan Yu is such a powerful character. Shan Yu's not S, but he is really good. But Jasmine is one of the best characters in the game. She's not the best character in the game. She's not even the best defense character in the game. Which I know is incredible, but hear me out here. You're gonna be dumbfounded. All right, Jessie. Jessie's not very good. She's not F because she has enough speed to compete with some characters that do have good abilities. I think she's a little bit better in Captain Hook because she doesn't give herself taunt. Her basic attack attacks random enemies, which you can't really target anybody. The extent to which you can do anything that actually has choices in the matter is give one of your teammates is pick the teammate that you give unstoppable and evasion to. Which, why does she have that? She's an offense character. I don't understand why she has such a defensive ability as an offense character. I get it, make her kind of like Aladdin a little bit, but it just didn't work. Um, if you want a character that can attack everybody flanking and gives people undefeatable, just pick Hades, right? Hades does that better. Judy Hopps. Hopps is a solid character. I think she goes in the bottom of B. Um, Maybe even a little bit higher than Elastigirl. Maybe even higher than Ian. Maybe even higher than Captain Jack Sparrow. Her donut ability, for some reason, or sorry, not her donut ability. Her donut ability is the one that attacks everybody. Her hop on the enemy and then chain to a number of different characters ability, for some reason, that's a 3 magic ability. And with the incredible speed that she has, she can do that every 3 turns. For some reason, the ability that's better than the one that costs more magic, for some reason, that ability is better than the one that costs more magic. There's a number of characters that have, I think, personally, a magic ability that is less magic that is just better than the other magic ability. But Judy is one of those characters. Her leadership ability is very solid. Give downtown hero teammates evasion. That's really good. Being able to dodge things more often is it's incredible. Yeah, I don't have much to say about her. She can attack everybody with one attack, and she can attack numerous characters with another, targeting one specifically for more. That's all. That's all she needs to be. But on top of that, she also gives characters evasion, which is great. I think her basic attack also gives her a shield, which is just outright. That's like Buzz's special ability, but in a basic attack, which is just better. Okay, I said we were getting to an F tier character. Kronk is an F tier character. Kronk is a defensive character that doesn't gain taunt and doesn't gain protected unless, or doesn't gain protection unless she's paired up with Yzma. And Yzma is also a terrible character. In fact, let's find Yzma and rate these two side by side. Yzma is even worse than Kronk. Yzma heals a character for a significant chunk of health, maybe increases their speed meter. It's better to decrease enemy speed meter than to increase your own speed meter, because of the fact that usually whenever you increase your own speed meter, you're already going to take that turn first. And it's hard to tell whether or not you take the next turn after the character would go up next. It's not about the character that goes up next. It's about taking the next turn, because taking the next turn means you have first choice of spells. So yeah, giving a character speed up, even a minuscule amount as she does, is not very good. Her basic attack sucks until higher levels. I think every single one of her upgrades of her basic attack is just deal more damage, and Kronk has a better chance to assist. And I like the idea of her ability that reduces the speed meter of a bunch of flanking characters. I feel like it would be completely fair to make that a start on the first turn, because she has such low speed that she's never going to take the first turn. So you can't come out of the gate swinging with the okay, reduce all their speed meter down, because she doesn't start with that ability. I believe she has to wait a turn. But on top of that, her abilities are terrible. Her basic attack is terrible, and she has the slowest speed in the game, at least tied for the slowest speed in the game. I don't think any character is slower than 80 speed. Yzma is easily the worst character in the game, closely followed by Kronk. The only thing that's nice about Kronk is that he can blind somebody, and he has a lot of health. That's it. He doesn't even taunt. It's not like he has a lot of health and taunts. He just has a lot of health. That's it. He doesn't deal damage. He doesn't create himself as a threat. And for some reason, all of his abilities are ridiculous magic costs. You know how to balance Kronk? Make both of his ability 1 magic cost. That'll make him balanced. Then he'll be balanced. He's so bad right now, especially as a defensive character. Why is he a defensive character that can't taunt? He can't protect. He can't do anything defensive. He can blind. That's it. The extent to which he can do something defensive is that he can blind. That's it. All right, Madam Mim. Madam Mim is pretty good. She's pretty good. She's around where anger is, maybe a little bit higher even. She can hit somebody for a lot of damage and I think purge them. I might be wrong about that. I think she can purge them. And she can also hit, I think, everybody on the team. Either that or a character and adjacent characters. But she's constantly causing status afflictions. And she's oftentimes paired with characters that I don't know exactly what her synergies are, but I know that she has synergies because I always find her on really weird and obscure teams. Um, so I know that she has synergies with characters that don't get used very much, which is kind of a deficit, but she has some solid abilities other than that. The Manticore. The Manticore, I think, was nerfed recently. She's not nearly as good as she used to be. I think she's sitting around the bottom of C. Overall, pretty average. She can... Yeah, I don't have much to say about the Manticore. I'm not going to talk much about the Manticore. She's not amazing. She's okay. She can stun somebody for 5 magic ability, but there's other characters that can stun better. She can taunt once every 3 turns. There's better uses of taunt than that. Just use Jasmine, where you can taunt on the first turn for 2 turns and summon some health for you. Excuse me. Merida. She's okay. She's not very good. She's not very good. I think she's a little bit... I think she's definitely in D. She might be the top of D. The only thing that I think is kind of neat about her is the concept of her kit, right? Where you actually have to decide whether or not you want to use a special ability and just kind of like let loose a whole bunch of damage, or use a basic attack to build up to that damage. But the problem is you're going to be spending more of your turns doing basic attacks in the hopes that you get an extra wisp. And normally what you want to spend that time doing is using the special abilities to their fullest potential. And you can use characters that have abilities that use their fullest potential, like for example, the Big Bad Wolf or the Horned King, that come out of the gate swinging and then continue to swing for solid damage with the basic attack. Merida's trouble is that her basic attack is arguably better than her special abilities, because her special abilities rely on using wisps, and her basic attack gives her wisps. Alright, on to Merlin. Merlin is really weird. I think he's a C. I think he's better than Ariel as a support. Not quite as good as some of these offensive characters at the top of C. Merlin he's pretty slow. He's not super slow. He's just pretty slow. Because that can be patched up a bit. But his abilities are really awesome. Now the problem with his abilities is they both cost 4 magic. So you really only get to use each of them one time over the course of a fight. Unless you have an entire team built on the synergy of giving everybody else magic. But I think one of his abilities at its highest level can give a character to all of their abilities 3 magic. That's basically like saying you have 2 Hades now. The only difficulty with it is you have to use it once that character has used their abilities both times. So you have to make sure that he has a speed that accommodates having used that character twice, so you can get 3 magic to both of their abilities instead of just 1. So for example, if I could somehow make him slower, so that he goes after I use Hades twice, then that would make him really awesome. But most of his kit revolves around what time he gets to use that ability that gives a character a ridiculous amount of magic and tactics. Mind you, and tactics. So that says not only am I able to use my special ability again, but also any random chance I had of something happening, it's going to happen now. That's great. That's solid. That's one of the best abilities in the game. It's a shame it's 4 magic, though. And it's a shame it's on a character that's so slow. His other ability is really awesome, too. It stuns. And if they're already stunned, it has a benefit then too. It reduces their speed meter. Reducing speed meter on an enemy is better than increasing a speed meter on your ally, I think, because it means that you are specifically saying, I don't want that character to take their turn, which is pretty awesome. Um, if you want a character that can stun, I might recommend somebody like Buzz. If you want a character that can stun, might I recommend somebody? Well, heck, might I recommend somebody that just charms, because charm is better than stun. It's like Captain Jack Sparrow. The frog transmute is basically a stun. It's actually better than a stun in my opinion, but we'll get to that later on. Monterey Jack, I can't judge him yet, but I'm not going to put him in can't judge because I have literally never seen him be played. I think the one time that I saw him be played, he was horrible. So he's going in the top of F. I, I, I can't think of a way to make Monterey Jack be better than he is. All right, we're getting into some good territory with Morshu. Wait, that's his name, Morshu. No, what's this guy's name? Mordu? Mondu? Somebody? I don't know his name. I'm sorry. But he's really solid. He's a really solid pick. He's a pretty good defensive character. Probably like right there, I'd say. He's just a really good defensive character. You know, he taunts, he stuns, and hits all adjacent characters for a big wallop. I mean, like a really strong attack. Puts him out of commission for a turn. And whenever he gets too low on health, which he will because he's going to be taunting for a turn at least, when he gets too low on health, he just goes into a rampage mode. And you'll find that any character that has that sort of defensive cleansing is higher than they otherwise would be. Like, anger is a little bit higher than he normally otherwise would be. He's normally higher than they normally otherwise would be, and both of these characters are higher than they normally otherwise would be because they have something that keeps them alive and ready to go longer. Okay, Mr. Incredible. Normally, I would say I can't judge him, but just from the impression I've got of him, I would put him at bottom of D, maybe top of E. He's not even quite as good as Gaston. He's just, I don't know. He's good with the Incredibles. He's not even good with the Incredibles. He's okay with the Incredibles. He's just the character that you put with the Incredibles that's defensive. You might even want to put a different defensive character with the Incredibles. I would personally put Jasmine with the Incredibles because she's just a really good defensive character. Alright, Mulan. Mulan is a solid Disney princess. Very good. Very, very good. Mulan is probably bottom of A. Maybe even top of B. Yeah, I'll say top of B. It's a tough choice between Aladdin and Mulan. I think Mulan is a little bit better because she has a 2 magic ability. A 2 magic ability. That means you can use it every other turn. That guaranteed inflicts offense down for 2 turns and has a chance to inflict silence for a turn. That basically puts a character out of commission for 2 turns and has a chance to really put them out of commission for 1 turn. And it's a 2 magic ability, so you can use that once every 2 turns. So because she's so fast, you can just pick a character and say that character doesn't get to play the game. On top of that, her basic attack almost always follows up because she gains tactics a lot of times whenever the opponent gets a beneficial ability. And tactics says that every time something has a chance of happening, it's guaranteed to happen. So her follow-up is nearly guaranteed to happen. Not only that, it just has a high chance of happening anyways. And don't get me started on her ability that stuns a character and has a chance to slow its adjacent characters and deals a ridiculous amount of damage to both. That's just the icing. You could make her a character that just had her basic attack and her special ability that has two magic that hits and deals offense down and inflicts um inflicts um silence sometimes. The only disadvantage to her is that she doesn't have a defensive capability, right? She doesn't. Her offense down is kind of like that, right? So it's like you pick the character that you don't want to deal a lot of damage. It's kind of like that, but compared to somebody like Big Bad Wolf or a Horn King that can just heal up their first bit of damage that they take, she really doesn't have anything to stop her from dying at the very beginning. Sheriff of Nottingham. Um, he's pretty bad, but he's not horrible. I'd say top of D. He's pretty bad, but not horrible. He doesn't have a whole lot of status afflictions causing, and he doesn't deal a ridiculous amount of damage. All of his abilities just hit for some damage. I mean, like, I read him, and all of his abilities just hit for some damage. I think he has one ability that has a chance to inflict slow. His unique feature is his scheming ability, which allows him to take more turns. It steals speed meter from characters that get, I think, positive status afflictions, positive status attributes. Um, so if you're playing up against a team of a lot of supports, Sheriff of Nottingham might be a good pick. Oogie Boogie. Oogie Boogie is a really weird pick. His one ability steals positive attributes from somebody and gives them to him. I think it steals positive attributes. So if you're hitting somebody who has taunt, then I think you get taunt. And then his other ability gives him taunt for 2 turns. So he can have taunt for a really long time. His disadvantage is he doesn't have a ridiculous amount of health, right? He doesn't have an amazing amount of health. Oogie Boogie's kind of like a one-trick pony, where you use his abilities and then you can just kind of sit around with him for a while. I don't think he has nearly as much health as some other characters that but like he does have a significant amount of defense, um, which is great for his ability that basically just passively heals him health. The difficulty with it, though, is that you want to have him get taunt before he uses his abilities that give him a lot of health back because they deal a lot of damage. But those abilities are the things that give him taunt. So it's just kind of a tough situation to be in. Um, you never feel like you're fully making use of Oogie Boogie. Um, but he's not bad. He's not bad. He's okay. Pete. Pete is right around there. Um, he just hits really hard. You know, he just hits really hard. Kind of like anger. He just kind of hits really hard. Um, I don't think he does quite as good of a job as anger at hitting really hard or Demona hitting really hard. I think he has a little bit more health even. That might just be me looking at him saying, "Oh, he's a big guy," and thinking he has a lot of health. But he might have less health even. But he just feels like he has a lot of health. I feel like every time I fought against him, I was like, "Oh, it's a defense character." Nope, he's actually an offense character. Who'd have known? He also has that kind of like surprise factor of when you play against him for the first time, you think, "Oh, it's a defense character," but no, he's actually an offense character, and he packs a wall up. So you don't exactly know what to expect when you first run up against Pete. Pocahontas. I have no idea what to expect about Pocahontas. I've been told by some people that Pocahontas is very similar to um, Dr. Facilier in the sense that her passive abilities are incredible despite the fact that she is really slow, but I do not know how to judge her. My range for where I would put her ranges between B and E. I mean, it's a big range. I don't know where she goes. I don't know how good Pocahontas is. I also don't know how good Queen of Hearts is. I do know Quora though. Quora, I would say Quora is at the bottom of A, again, if you have an ability, if you're an offense character and you have the offense speed to match, and you have an ability that brings you back into the game after being defeated, you're automatically better than all other characters that don't do that. And she kind of does that. She just doesn't do it as well as, say, Hades or Davy Jones. But she does some solid damage, and that's about it. She just does some solid damage. All right, Rafiki. Rafiki can stun and he can cleanse and heal a character, but he's super slow. I think just because his abilities are a little bit better than most other abilities, he goes above Jesse and Captain Hook. And every once in a while, his wife move can pop, but he's too slow. He's just too slow, and characters like Genie are better than him because he has a passive ability that makes him a threat, as opposed to Rafiki, which Rafiki's sort of threat that he has is that he can heal a significant chunk of health and cleanse all negative effects. So if you're really focusing somebody down, then Rafiki can bring them back up. But Genie can already do that and kind of does it without having to take a turn. So yeah, I just think Genie's a better support than Rafiki, so Rafiki's automatically lower than that. Randall. I don't know. I don't know Randall. I really don't know Randall. If I had to guess based upon what I read about him, I would put him somewhere in the B to D range. Okay, Robin Hood. Robin Hood is bad. Robin Hood is the first offensive character that I am putting in E. I'm gonna put him right there. Robin Hood, his abilities hinge off of a gimmick, right? His one ability says deal more damage based upon how high. I forget if it's low or high. I think it's high. How high the enemy's health percentage is. So he's good at getting damage started. His other ability gives everybody in a flanking position guaranteed crit strike, which is it's good, right? But it's only really worth it if you can get the row that has at least 3 characters in it, right? Because you're spending a turn to make the next hit deal more damage, and then you're not actively doing anything that turn. You're just giving guaranteed crit strike. You're not putting up a defensive wall or anything. You're just making the next attack from a row be more powerful. On top of that, usually you don't want to put all your offensive characters in the same flanking position, because of the fact that you usually build your team around the fact that you want your adjacent characters and your flanking characters to have a good mixture of attributes. That way, let's say they really focus on hitting the flank on the enemy team. You don't want just all your offensive characters to immediately go down to 0 health and be left with only defensive characters. So usually, you build your flanks and you build your flanks off of the fact that you want a mixture of attributes, and having everybody in a flank get guaranteed crit strike means that you have to put all your offensive characters or all your characters that are going to deal a lot of damage in the same row, which isn't ideal. Also, his basic attack is pretty bad. Yeah, his basic attack is pretty bad. And his passive isn't great either. His passive is not even assist with your basic attack. It's assist with a worse than your basic attack. It's pathetic. Sally. I don't have experience playing with Sally. I do have experience playing against Sally. I know Sally is really solid. She can blind people. She can deal a significant chunk of damage. She can heal herself. She can hit everybody. I think she can hit and blind everybody. That's amazing. She can hit and blind everybody. It doesn't matter if it's a high magic cost ability. I don't even think it is a high magic cost ability, but if it was, that'd still be okay. Because that ability's cool. That ability's amazing. I think she's a support, but she has a decent speed for a support. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty solid. A pretty solid choice. I might be wrong about that. She might be an offensive character. Steamboat Willie. I don't know anything about Steamboat Willie. I've never played against him. I've never played with him. I haven't even read his stats. Scar. I'm sorry if you. By the way, I'm sorry if you're like looking for input on the characters that I don't know about. I I, I promise there will be a ton of characters at the very end that I do not know about. Um, but uh, yeah. Hope you enjoy nonetheless. Scar. I have a friend who's very interested in Scar, but I've played against him and he's all right. He's all right. He's not fantastic. I think he's top of C. He assists a lot of the time with Long Live the King. Doesn't assist all the time, but he's good. He can blind. He deals a lot of damage. He can stealth. He can summon hyenas. He's good. He's a good one. Okay, I don't know that much about Scrooge, but I don't think Scrooge is good. I think Scrooge is really annoying. Right? I think Scrooge is like right around where Oogie Boogie is in the realm of annoying. If I remember correctly, he steals your taunt or he steals your positive attributes sometimes. Um, but his active abilities are rather lackluster. You either give him and his adjacent allies, I think it's offense up or defense up at the toss of a coin. Um, and there's characters that do that passively, like Captain Jack Sparrow. Why not just use him? All right, Shan Yu. I've used Shan Yu personally, and I can say Shan Yu is mid A. Not top of A, but mid A. He's his abilities are both really good, but his main issue is that he doesn't come with a full package, right? He is just offense. He hits his one ability is 5 magic and it hits so hard twice. And if it kills something, then you take another turn. And his basic attack has a chance of going to an adjacent character, which is really solid. And every time he gets a critical strike, you decrease their speed meter, which is really solid. Like, I mean, that's basically Sheriff of Nottingham, but it deals even more, but he deals even more damage. And he can hit all flanking characters, give defense down, get offense up. It's really good. But he's not S good. He doesn't have the defense to make up for it. The thing that makes him really good, I think, is his leadership ability that gives all kingdom teammates plus 12% speed. Plus 12% speed. They have to design the game around that fact that he gives kingdom teammates plus 12 speed. He would have to make they would have to make kingdom teammates worse than they are originally just for that fact. Shere Khan, I don't know enough about Shere Khan. Simba. Simba's the only character I've run up against where consistently each time I hit him, I deal, at least whenever I'm facing a really strong team that has Simba on it, where I consistently deal 1 damage to the Simba. I don't understand it. I mean, he's not amazing, but like he has so much defense and he has so many ways to prevent um, damage dealing that I think he's like a solid mid C, maybe even a little bit higher, maybe right around there, right above anger. He's really good. He's not amazing though. Who is amazing? Sorcerer Mickey. Sorcerer Mickey is I would say right around where Judy Hopps is, maybe even a little bit better than Judy Hopps. Maybe even a little bit better than, yeah. Um, Sorcerer Mickey can drastically reduce the speed meter of an opponent on a 3 magic ability. Um, and deal a whole lot of damage if they don't have a lot of defense. And he has an ability that hits everybody on the opponent's team and slows them down. He is the character to have whenever you make a Shan Yu team. And ironically enough, the 2 characters to have with a Shan Yu team are Sorcerer Mickey and Mulan. Some irony for you there. But they're all really solid characters, and they all make really solid choices on a Shan Yu team. Um, Especially Shan Yu. I love using Shan Yu on a Shan Yu team. All right, Sully. Sully's okay. He's not. Yeah, I think he's a little bit better than Oogie Boogie. Right? He's a little bit better than Oogie Boogie. A little bit of insight on what I think about what each tier means. F means you should never use them. Means I would only really use the character whenever you have to use them, right? Whenever the mission that goes along with it calls for that character. D means the character is very niche and they're used for very specific situations that you wouldn't normally otherwise use them for, and in very obscure team builds. C means they're average. C means that they are a character that has no outstanding positive attributes, has no outstanding negative attributes. They are just they're decent. They're solid. They're good choices to use on any team, but they're not amazing. B means that the character is really solid. I mean, there's something stand out about them. I would say there's something stand out about every single one of these characters. There is something unique to every single one of these B characters. A means it's like a no-brainer. These characters are really good. Using them is a good idea. And S is even more no-brainer than that. S is like if you see these characters and you can use these characters and they are of comparable power level to the teams that you will be using and they match and they fit for the mission at hand, you should use them. Right? Like if you can use them, use the S characters. Now, I am personally of the belief that using characters that are really good because they are really good is kind of lame. I like being able to workshop weird, obscure builds that don't utilize S tier characters and see what I can come up with to make these characters better than they would be by themselves. Unfortunately, there's no help in Kronk and Yzma. Kronk and Yzma are pretty bad. Alright, Syndrome. Syndrome can stun, and he can hit everybody on one round, and he has a random chance to give a random enemy vulnerable. And his basic attack is pretty solid as well. It also has the capability to give him offense up. So for all those reasons, he is much better than Buzz because his stun deals a lot more damage. Granted, it costs a lot more magic, but you're only really going to use that ability one time anyways. Buzz, maybe you'll get 2 stuns out of it, but the fact that you can deal damage to everybody solidly puts Syndrome in the mid B tier, maybe even high B tier. Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is really weird. Tinkerbell is one of those characters that is bad asterisk. They're bad, except sometimes when you get into a one-on-one scenario with just a, like maybe not even a one-on-one, but a two-on-two situation. If it's down to a two-on-two situation with Tinkerbell, the other allied character, and whoever you have on your team, the fact that she can use her abilities so quickly, like I believe they don't have that much magic use to them. Either that, or she just gets a ton of turns somehow. But she's slow. She's slow. So she's not great. I think she's a little. She's like top of D. a little bit better than some of these other characters. I think she's a little bit better than Genie, but she's really not that good. Violet. Violet, I don't know. Because one of her abilities is grant a shield to the entire team. It's a pretty solid shield, and her other ability is don't fight me. Fight me last. But she doesn't really do damage. So, as opposed to a character that is a high priority threat, she is almost doing the opposite. She is saying, don't attack me until the very end. Which goes counterintuitive with what you want from a support. You want the support, it's what you want in a support, but it's not what you want in a character that threatens the battlefield. So for a similar reason, she's also going to go into the top of D, slightly lower than Tinkerbell. Her abilities are good, don't get me wrong. They're really good. Getting evasion once every 2 turns, that's solid. Woody's bad. Woody's not terrible, but he's bad. He's like top of E, I would say. The thing keeping him down is that he's slow. And his ability to give everybody speed up costs 5 magic. You might as well just say, you can use this once per battle. That's it. You can just use it once per battle. And the benefit of giving everybody speed up lowers in value as you get less and less characters. Because it targets everybody, but it targets everybody the same each time. So if you only have 4 characters, it targets everybody and gives everybody speed up, and everybody having speed up is less powerful than 5 characters having speed up. His other ability, I don't even remember what his other ability does. I just remember his sending out the troops ability, which heals people whenever they go below a certain threshold, which happens quite often. It's a solid heal ability, but it's not nearly as good as somebody like Dr. Facilier, who you can actually make use out of his abilities. Right? You can't really make use out of Woody's abilities, and they're also ridiculously magic intensive. Zurg. Oh boy. Zurg is bottom of S. Oh my gosh, where do I start? Zurg does a ridiculous, and I mean a ridiculous amount of damage, but that's about it. Right? Zurg's entire thing is pick an enemy character. That enemy character dies. Like, his entire thing is pick an enemy character, that enemy character dies. And if you can pick an offensive character that's of similar caliber to Zurg, then Zurg's done his job, right? Zurg's done his job, especially if you can build your team around the synergies involved with Zurg, because he's a downtown villain. There's a lot of synergy with downtown villains, especially with a character as good as Dr. Facilier, who gives him extra potency. Both of his special magic abilities revolve around picking a character and deleting them, which is great. And if you could do that twice, even better. His one drawback is that he has so little health. I mean, he has some of the smallest health in the game compared to other characters at similar levels. That's it. That's it, though. Like that's all that he has is low health. Okay. I'm gonna skip ahead here a little bit. Let me move these characters up a little bit, and I'll come back to these two later. So let's start with Anna. Anna is really good. Anna is like, she's a support, but she's also fast. And she has some of the best support abilities in the entire game. She is top of A. She's not quite S, right? Because she's not, but the capability for one ability to give everybody magic and speed up and increase their speed meter. Now, I know I said before that increasing speed meter isn't great. You'd rather decrease the speed meter of opponents, but when you can do that to multiple characters at a time and increase their magic, that's amazing. She also has another ability that says every enemy on the opposing team, they all take a little bit of damage, actually moderate damage even, and they all get offense down. Oh my gosh, I cannot possibly overstate how powerful that is. You have, by giving offense down to every enemy on the team, you have effectively said, if your team is composed of offensive characters, you lose. Right? You are relying on the fact that you have a defensive or supportive character to remove the offense up, and effectively spending their turn removing the offense up from themselves and removing it from somebody else as well. That in effect gives you one useful turn. Having 2 turns of a character with offense down is actually not as good as having 1 turn with a character that doesn't have offense down, because although it's only 50% damage down, that doesn't take into consideration the enemy's defense. If the enemy has any defense at all, then 50% damage down ends up being more like 75 to 80% damage down from what you'd normally be dealing, because the enemy has some amount of defense, which is damage mitigation. And the next right thing is one of the best leadership abilities in the entire game. It's incredible. Give somebody speed up, give somebody defense up, give somebody, extra length to their ability times. It's amazing. Elsa. Elsa is in S. The question is where in S. I would put Elsa. At the moment at the top of S. She's the best offense character in the game. That's hands down. She's not the best character in the game, but she's the best offense character in the game. She can deal massive amounts of damage to every enemy on the opponent's team with both of her special abilities, and the one hits even harder and silences and hits adjacent characters. And to add insult to injury, she is almost guaranteed to follow up. I mean, I haven't seen a situation very often where she doesn't follow up with an attack. I haven't read it exactly, but she almost always follows up with her attack. And her follow-up attack deals so much damage. It's amazing how much damage she deals. And yeah, she kind of is lacking in the area of getting, and she gets guaranteed crits sometimes. Oh my gosh, guaranteed crits to deal even more massive amounts of damage is incredible. The only downside that she has is that she doesn't cause status afflictions, but she doesn't need to. She does what Zerg does, but better. She just deletes characters, and she does it to the entire enemy team instead of just one. And when she would die, she doesn't. She goes into stasis for a round, and then when she comes back up, she can hit you again. It's amazing. And the bridge is so powerful. I've seen situations where I've been hit with the bridge every single turn, and I've just been wailing on as many characters as I possibly can. I've tried holding back on characters as many times as possible. Again, I haven't read her stat sheet or anything. I'm sure if I read something in there, I'll be like, oh, okay, that's how I don't get destroyed here. I had to reach it eventually. I had to get to this character eventually. The thing is, Kristoff is the best character in the game. I'm not even exaggerating. Like you think I'm exaggerating here, but I'm not. I'm really not exaggerating. Kristoff is the best character in the game. Kristoff has a 2 magic ability, which summons a minion that has ridiculous amounts of health and heals for ridiculous amounts of health. And he has he has okay speed. Why is it important that he has okay speed? Because when you play a character that is defense and you play with and you're using taunt, you want that character to take as few turns as possible. Why? Well, if they take as few turns as possible, they're taunted for longer. This character, yes, he has a 3 magic ability that taunts him, but he also has a passive ability that just like gives him extra increased time to his to his defense to his taunt and his his defense up. And I think I might be conflating that with Ana, but either way, I know for a fact that this is Kristoff and Ana that we're talking about here, so I know that they have synergies with one another. But it's just that every time I come up against this team, the one standing in the way is Kristoff. He has incredible amounts of health. He gets health. He gets harmful immunity. He gets taunt sometimes for 3 or 4 turns in a row. He always has defense up. You can never get rid of the stuff on him. You have to play a team specifically devoted to purging positive attributes on a character, and it still doesn't even come close to chunking out his health. And to make things even worse, if you put Sven on your team, who is amazing, I might add, he's at the top of A. Sven is not better than Ana. If you put Sven on your team, then every single time you eat a carrot, Kristoff also gets the health for it. And sometimes, if you have, I think it's also if you have to have Kristoff on your team for this. Sometimes he just eats a carrot randomly. It just happens. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how infuriating, how frustrating, how mind-bogglingly powerful Kristoff is. I think if you increased, I think one thing that could make him a little bit more balanced is if you increase the magic cost of both of his abilities by 1. He would still be incredibly powerful, but he wouldn't be overbearing. He wouldn't be as ridiculously strong as he is. I'm going to be the first one to say it. Kristoff is the best character in the entire game. I said it. There, I said it. Kristoff is the best character in the entire game. I'm not going back on it. I said it and I mean it. Kristoff is the best character in the entire game. Okay, Olaf. Whew. Time for a cooldown session. Alright, Olaf. O- Olaf is... he's okay. He can charm. He can give tactics. He's not very fast. He's a decent support. Decent. That's it. And most of the time, this might just be my experience from the teams I've played, but I usually resist his charm. And there's characters that charm better than he can. Um, like there's characters like Minnie Mouse who charm like crazy. Um, but I even put him at the top of C. He's all right. He's solid. You can give a character tactics and a couple other extra things, and you can give a character charm, and he's okay. He's all right. I like his abilities. I like his abilities. Oh my gosh, you put these 5 on a team together, and it's just so obvious how much stronger these 4 are than Olaf in comparison. Because you see all the interactions that happen between these 4, and you just don't see that with Olaf. It's really sad. Um, Poor Olaf. Get my boy. Get my boy. I don't know, some extra snow or something. Big baby. Big baby is okay. Big baby is okay. I would put him a bit below Buzz. Right? Um, Buzz has a 2 magic ability that deals a solid amount of damage and a 3 magic ability that stuns. That means that if Buzz survives for a while, which he's probably not likely to do because he doesn't have a whole lot of health, then he can be solid. Big Baby is He has a 2 magic ability and a 4 magic ability, and the weird thing is his 2 magic ability is just better than his 4 magic ability. Throwing the ball, tossing the ball, it reduces the enemy's speed meter by 30%. That is huge, especially for a 2 magic ability. Um, it's not nearly as good as something, say, like Mulan's 2 magic ability, where you basically put somebody at commission until you can use the ability again. But it's still really good. It's still like a delay their turn. You might get an extra turn in. You might even defeat them by then. Um, but yeah, Big Baby's okay. Um, Chunk. I think Chunk is a really good defensive character. I think he's at the bottom of A. Now, the reason I say that, he doesn't have a lot of active abilities, but his passive ability is basically a paragraph that translates into, at the beginning of his turn, he removes one random status affliction duration, or he purchases one random status effect, negative status effect. If he doesn't have taunt, he gets taunt. If he has taunt, his taunt gets replaced with speed up. If he has speed up, his speed up gets replaced with defense up. So what ends up happening is it's this rotation of, okay, I have nothing, I have taunt, I have speed up, I have taunt and defense up. And it usually helps you get into this rhythm of using his ability, his one special ability. He either hits normally, and if he has speed up or defense up, I think he gets some extra bonuses. If he has speed up, the enemy gets inflicted offense down, and offense down is one of the most powerful status afflictions in the game. You basically put the enemy on commission for a turn if they're an offensive character. And ground pound, which deals a moderate amount of damage to a character and their adjacent characters, and increases the duration of negative status effects. So if you build for a negative status effect team, Chunk can increase the amount of time that character is basically out of commission. If you put any character on your team that inflicts offense down, uh, like Mulan, for example, or transmute into a frog, or even charm. I think it even affects charm. I think any charm abilities get increased in time. All you have to do is time the ground pound along with that move. And the other reason he makes a solid defensive character is because he has taunt. Um, he either gets taunt on his turn, or if he has taunt, he replaces it with speed up. What that means is that he either has taunt, or he has something that helps him get to his turn that has taunt faster. In other words, he almost always has taunt, which is great for a defensive character. You want your defensive characters to always have taunt. The downside is you can't really pair him up with any other defensive characters because you can't really time your taunts, because you don't want two characters to have taunt, because if two characters have taunt, then they both can be targeted. So you can't really pair Chunk with another defensive character. He kind of has to be your only defensive character if you want to use him. Lotso. Lotso's pretty bad. Um, I haven't even used Lotso. I'm considering using some gems to get Lotso just because I built up this team that has Dr. Facilier and Chunk and Big Baby and I think I also has Yokai. Um, but and 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 Lotso fits into that very well, but he's just not good. He has Violet syndrome where um he is himself is not the priority. He puts the priority on everybody else, and then he's just not very good whenever he's all by himself. Um, so I think the characters that are really good are the characters that can stand by themselves and have synergies with other characters. And he has synergy with other characters, but he cannot stand by himself. Okay. Hero. Hero is Hero's pretty good. Hero's pretty good. He's not incredible. He's not quite the power level of like Shan Yu, but Hero is pretty darn good because of the fact that he gives tech teammates, which most I think it's tech teammates. He gives tech teammates, which most Big Hero 6 teammates are, um, extra speed meter or extra speed rather. That's great. That's so good, especially with a character like Gogo Tamago and Wasabi and Honey Lemon. I think her name's Honey Lemon. These characters are all really good. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and rate them right now, just to get them out of the way. Wasabi, excuse me. Wasabi is at the top of or middle of A, just above Jack Jack. Gogo Tamago is even better than that because she's faster. She doesn't pack as much of a punch, but she is even faster than Wasabi, which makes her infinitely better. Um, and the fact that she always gets an extra, I think she just keeps popping gum every single time she takes a turn. She pops some gum and she gets an extra benefit of some kind. I forget what that extra benefit is. I think it's like offense up or something like that. But it's insane. And Honey Lemon. Honey Lemon. Honey Lemon's a little bit better than Wasabi. See, Honey Lemon's thing is, see, Wasabi and Gogo Tamago rely on a Big Hero 6 team, but to be amazing, to be outstanding. Honey Lemon doesn't, right? Honey Lemon does not need to, you know, rely on the teammates to be good because every single attack causes slow. That's so good. And another one that causes stun. And I think the other one, I forget what the last one does, but everything she does causes a status affliction, and they're all so good. They're all so strong. It's like basically Ian, but like it's basically Ian, but her status afflictions are guaranteed to be the ones that you want them to be because they're always a specific one, right? It's always slow or stun. Whereas Ian's, it's like you just give them a random status effect and pack a big wallop. Um, Ian kind of functions as Wasabi and Honey Lemon together, where he packs a big wallop and spreads around status afflictions, but he's a bit more random and a bit less reliable. Alright, it has been a while since we last left off. I took a much needed rest and break after having ranked a bunch of characters, but we're going to get right back into it. Alright, on to Cobra. Cobra is a phenomenal character. Would I say he's an S? No, but he is easily the top of A, right? He Cobra, although he doesn't have very many methods to heal, which is what you generally want in a support, he does have some excellent moves and excellent passive abilities. Um, every single time any ally character takes damage, and that stacks for multi-hit attacks and multi-character hit attacks, he gets 5% speed meter, or a little bit of extra speed meters, depending on your level. That's amazing. That's incredible. That all by itself makes him a very good character. What makes him sort of toward the top tier is the fact that his abilities are so phenomenal, and in addition to all that, his basic attack is incredible as well. So his basic attack gets extra damage scaling based on how much his health percentage is. So he can deal an extra up to 100% damage based off of his original damage stat. And the base damage on that attack is not bad at all. So if he's at full health, his basic attack can really hit for a lot of damage. Not only that, but his basic attack also helps regenerate the time, the amount of magic left on, gives a magic increase to his other abilities. And on top of that, his other abilities are excellent. I mean, like, really good. Like, excellent. Really good. Stare Down is kind of the not quite as good one, but still really good. It removes a significant chunk of speed meter from the opponent and purges them of one type of positive effect, and gives them Intimidate, and might give them Silence. I found sometimes they can resist the silence, or sometimes it just doesn't give it silence. But he also gets extra potency based on how much extra health percent he has for that ability, which means that the more health he has, the more likely you are to get all of those things. Great, absolutely phenomenal. And the other ability cleanses some, purges some harmful. I believe it's one harmful effect by default, and gives some incredible positive attributes. He gives speed up. He gives offense up, and he gives tactics. Oh my gosh, I cannot possibly overstate how good tactics is. Tactics is amazing. On top of that, Cobra additionally assists every character that attacks that has tactics. It doesn't even have to be a basic attack. It can be either like a special attack, and he will assist with tactics. If you give Cobra, extra attack up, extra attack damage, um, then that not only contributes to his extra damage, I believe, I might be wrong about this, but I believe it also contributes to his extra bonus damage. But it doesn't matter anyway, because he's just going to be attacking a lot. He's going to be supporting a lot of characters. He's going to be adding extra, assist attacks on top of everything else that there already is. And his more expensive magic ability at later levels gets two tactics. Two tactics. You can have a character attack for him twice on their next two turns by spending one of his turns. And most of the times he attacks, he's probably going to get closer to being able to use that ability again to give another character two tactics. If you have any character that benefits from tactics or gives tactics, look for that, because now they have to design the entire game around Cobra and giving extending tactics. Sometimes he also just like randomly gives somebody tactics at the beginning of his turn, which is amazing. Give himself tactics. I think it's guaranteed to happen. It might have to be an active ability. I think tactics has to affect active abilities. I'm not 100% sure on that though. Um, there are a lot of times when he just kind of like gives somebody extra tactics sometimes, and it's great. It's fantastic. It works especially well with Mulan, because Mulan has the capability to get her own tactics, and every time every one of her moves is an attack. So that has a primary target. So you can always focus on pretty much whoever you want with Mulan and Cobra. It's very good synergies right there. And altogether, Cobra's. You know what? I changed my mind. Cobra is now bottom of S tier. Cobra, he's even better than Zerg. I wouldn't say he's better than Davy Jones, but he is better than Zerg, because you do have to spend each of his turns individually doing something, one at a time. All right, you do have to pick an ability, and all of his abilities are really good. And I think that he is an excellent character to have if you are playing as the team that has, like, if you're playing as your team and not just automating it. Really solid character. Cobra is so good. All right, Gontu. Gontu, I'm going to put at around toward the bottom of A, right? Not tippy top bottom of A, but toward the bottom of A. He at first glance, when you first look at him, you think to yourself, well, he suffers from the same issue that Kronk suffers from, where he is a defensive character that doesn't get taunt or protect. But he doesn't actually need to. All of his abilities, every single one of his abilities, center around the concept that if you leave him alone for too long, he will get stronger. Right? So you have to keep attacking him. If you don't attack him, he'll get charged from extra counterattacks and basic attacks, which are very likely to happen. his one ability that he can use right away gets extra damage based off of um, how much health percentage he has. And if he has enough charge on him, he can just use a really powerful ability that attacks every enemy on the opposing team um, every turn, essentially. You know, if he has enough charged on him, he can get up to, I believe he can get up to 8, 10 charge, something like that. Um, Either way, incredible extra amounts of damage that you can deal with Gontu just by making the team leave him alone. Makes him a great priority target while also having a lot of health. Very, very good character. Stitch. I don't have a ton of experience with Stitch, but it hasn't been great. I think Stitch is in this weird place between Anger and Demona. And again, I would normally put him in a spot where I can't judge him yet, but I've played against him enough times to kind of like take an educated guess. He's pretty average. I think he's also one of those characters that if you leave alone for too long, he gets really powerful. But at the same time, Gontu does it better because Gontu just has more health, so he's harder to get rid of. Stitch doesn't have a lot of health. You can start attacking him, and he will eventually um, fall. Gizmoduck, I don't know anything about Gizmoduck. I'm sorry. My initial impression I get of Gizmoduck is he's somewhere between C and E. I know it's a big range, but that's what I get from him. Maui, I also don't have enough information on Maui. Um, Again, Maui's okay. I wouldn't say he's even as good as Genie because he only gives himself invulnerable and he's not really a priority target. Yeah, maybe he's not even actually okay all that much. I guess he has this capability of stun, so he's probably sitting right around where Genie is, maybe a little bit higher, probably somewhere in D, maybe C, low C, or top of E, somewhere from C to E, I would say. Moana. Okay, I can judge Moana. I can judge Moana. Moana is really solid. She's not incredible, but she's really solid. I would put Moana right under Aladdin. Moana deals a lot of damage. She can slow. She has the same bouncing feature that you get from Judy Hopps. Um, I don't exactly remember what her leadership abilities it is, but I do know she does have a passive that can give characters with low amounts of health or low percentages of health taunt, which is really good for getting through taunt walls, especially during early turns of the game. So if you have a lot of offense on your side, you can really push through that. She's also an oceanic character, so she gets benefits from characters that are also excellent, like Cobra and Gontu. Um, and tactics for a character like Moana is I don't know exactly how it is, but I do know that she has a chance to slow with some of her effects. Um, I don't know if that would mean that her chains get maximized, that the amount of chains on her more aura ability gets maximized. Um, but she has some really solid damage output and a very good ability to give other opponents taunt. So her entire strategy is come out of the gates swinging um, and make herself a high priority target. Um, that's pretty much all she does well, though. That's why she's not a higher, because she does an excellent job of dealing a lot of damage. She does an excellent job of getting through taunt walls, but you can just start attacking her and she will fall. Okay, Baymax. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, one red, two blue, four. You rated Kristoff as the best character in the game, but you didn't get to Baymax, who I know you're sitting there thinking Baymax is the best character in the game. Well, that's because I don't know enough information about Baymax to judge him. I'm sure he is really excellent. I've seen him in action before. I haven't seen him too much. I've seen him in a couple case scenarios, and every time I play against him, it's always against a team that is way stronger than I am. so I don't have very good judgment. The actual power level of the deck is a lot stronger a lot of the time, so I don't have a good way to measure how strong he is. But I do know this much. Most of his special abilities attack every character on the other team for a lot of damage. He has an incredible amount of health. He has taunt. I think he can get harmful immunity as well. Um, I think something causes him to get defense up, but that just tends to happen a lot of the time. And that's kind of the trifecta of defensive, of good defensive abilities is a taunt, defense up, and harmful immunity. If you get those three, which is another thing that Kristoff gets, it's incredible. Um, and like I said, his ability stuns in addition to hitting other members of the team. He dishes out massive amounts of damage. He may very well be the best character in the game, but I am not able to make that judgment call right now. I've only seen bits and pieces of what he can do, so I can't judge him yet. But he may or may not actually be the best character in the game. I just think that I can more easily judge Kristoff based on what I've seen. Okay, Fred. Fred is solid. Works really well with Big Hero 6 characters. I found that if I get into a situation where um, Fred is the only character on the other team that I have to fight through, and I may have two or three or even three characters left, in combination with Fred being strong and them being able to use spells, sometimes the Fred can bite entirely through the rest of my team all by himself, which is incredible. That's like Jasmine levels of cool stuff that you can do. The issue with him is that he's not always consistent, right? His basic attack leaves something to be desired, um, but his abilities are really powerful. I believe he can deal continuous damage. He can. I might be wrong about this, but I swear I've seen him blind before. Um, I know he can stun. Um, Excellent character. Works really well with the Big Hero 6 group. Um, I feel like it's kind of like Manticore but better. Fred is kind of like Manticore but better because Manticore you have to use with Ian and Barley, and Ian and Barley are not nearly as strong as some of the Big Hero 6 characters. So Fred is really good, really good. Okay, Yokai. Yokai is niche, right? Yokai is niche. I would put Yokai toward the bottom, but not at the bottom of B. Yokai is the only character I know that consistently, right? Consistently, when I say consistently, I mean every time, summons two minions with one ability. His first four magic ability, his first ability, which is four magic, use the commas in there properly, can summon two spires, and then his other ability you can only use the turn after that, which you probably want to anyways, which can hit a character for a lot of damage with a lot of it's a multi-hit attack, and every single one of your spires assist afterwards. Um, so Yokai is unique in the feature that he can summon two minions in one turn, so he is fantastic with characters like Dr. Facilier. I mean, phenomenal with characters like Dr. Facilier. He can, they really work well together. Not only that, he's also a downtown villain. Um, so Dr. Facilier and Yokai, a very good pair. They're pretty good. They're all pretty good. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, yes, I have placed every character that I use in my primary build. The characters that I use in my primary build are Jasmine, Cobra, Chunk, Dr. Facilier, and Yokai. That's just a team that tends to work really well with one another. Cobra providing, Dr. Facilier working really well with minions. Jasmine and Yokai summoning minions. Cobra being able to assist and really dish out a lot of damage. Yokai able to summon the core minions and do a one-time spurt of big damage, and Chunk as the primary source of defense just behind Jasmine, and continues to be a source of taunt for the rest of the turns. Jasmine's Raja just kind of acts as like the initial taunt, um, but Chunk acts as the continuous taunt throughout the rest of the match. Um, that's my team that I use for the most part. They're also very relative, not I wouldn't say very, but relatively easy characters to get for newcomers. I play this game for free, right? So I'm not gonna see characters like Baymax for a long time. I'm not gonna see characters like Jafar for a long time. There's a lot of characters that I just won't see for a long time because I don't really have a way to get them. But moving on, let's take a look at the Beast. Um, Beast is definitely one of those characters that I can't judge, but let me take my best guess. My best guess for Beast, and obviously Beast works really well with Bell. Similarly, I can't really judge Bell, but let's compare the two. Um, I like to treat both of them as kind of together because they're really weak separately, right? I haven't seen them be used to great effect to separately, but when together they're around the BC range, but individually they're probably in the range of C to E. Um, they rely on one another to be there in order to make a good team. Individually, their abilities are not great. Bell is a little bit better than Beast in my opinion. Um, Bell has some really solid passives that I've seen be used in princess builds. Like somebody might build an entire team of princesses and then add the Beast to it. Um, that worked out really well against me, especially considering that I always look forward to whenever I find a team that's similar in deck power to me, and I found a team that was a little bit higher in deck power to me one time, and they beat me up. They beat me up real bad because they had the Beast and Belle and a bunch of other Disney princesses which were really solid. I think one was Jasmine. I think one was um, the Moana, and then there might have been an Anna in there. I don't know. There were just some really good Disney princesses in there. A lot of the Disney princesses are really good. Okay, let's move on to Cogsworth. Cogsworth is really, really bad. I mean, like, really bad. I haven't even played this character all that much, and I don't even have to. I just read his abilities, and I know how easy it is to get these characters because I know how early he comes up in the listing of characters that you can get tokens for, and nobody, I mean nobody wanted Cogsworth. Absolutely zero people tried to obtain Cogsworth. I've obtained Cogsworth. I have left him at level 1 ever since then. His abilities look really bad. I think he can, he's not only slow, but also his taunt doesn't last that long, right? I think his one taunt ability is like gain taunt for a turn, and it's three magic cost, and so you can get taunt once every 3 turns. Okay, that's kind of okay. It's okay. It's not as good as like something like Chunk or like that, but like it's just taunt, right? You have to have some other defensive capabilities other than just being a lot of health. So you have to have something that causes you to be helpful. And what's his ability do? I don't know, it purges speed up or something like that. And I think it has a chance to turn it into slow down. That's it. Like, it doesn't even purge all effects from a character or like some specific effects or all of some specific effects. It just like purges like I think 1 or 2 abilities. I think it's purges speed up and something else, but only one of them. I don't even think it does both of them. It might do both of them, but either way, that's not very good because speed up is not exactly an ability that is going to be on a character for very long. So if you want to purge speed up, you need to use a character. The character that you use to purge speed up has to take a lot of turns, and using somebody like Cobra to purge a speed up is actually kind of viable because your team members will get hit. He will increase in speed meter, and then let's say the other opponent was using, I don't know, um, Captain Hook, and then he got bad form, and then he threw a gift from Wendy at somebody. Then you say, oh, it's Cobra's turn because he just increased his speed meter. That doesn't happen with Cogsworth. Cogsworth doesn't have the speed necessary to actually get the opportunity to purge speed down, because by the time he does that, there's no characters that have speed down or speed up anymore. Um, really not a great ability. And the other ability is like gain stealth for a turn. I think he might also gain evasion, and then the next turn he does like a decent amount of damage. But why would you want your defensive character to get stealth? It doesn't make any sense. You want your defensive character to take the damage. You don't want them to hide in the shadows for that all the time. I guess you could argue that he has a lot of control in that sense, right? You're able to pick and choose when you do and do not want to be him taunted, but usually you want your defensive characters to taunt as much as you possibly can. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's not very good. All right, Daisy. Daisy is a solid pick, but not amazing. I would put her right around where Anger is. Maybe a little bit lower than Anger, because Anger can purge and can cleanse harmful effects and deal some damage whenever he gets low enough. Daisy's very much an active character that works well with Donald Duck. The reason she's so high up on the list, she would actually be lower if she didn't have synergy with Donald Duck, and Donald Duck is a really good character, so Daisy's a little bit higher. So Donald is kind of hoisting Daisy up, but giving a character and adjacent character's offense up is pretty good. It's a lot better than, say, somebody like Baloo that does the same thing. The difference with Baloo is you get to pick who is the character that gets the offense up, and by extension the adjacent characters. But she just kind of like gives characters next to her and her offense up, and deals damage to a character in the adjacent characters, and has a decently strong basic attack. That's pretty much it. When you hit Daisy, Donald gets more powerful. Another reason why Donald is just really good. I mean, Donald is so strong. Donald has so much health for being... I don't even know what type of character he is. I don't know where he's a support. I don't know where he's offense. I don't know where he's defense. I've just seen him be played a lot and what he can do in a combat. He has so much health for a character that seems like he's offense. He seems like he's offense, but he has so much health. He can taunt. He can counterattack. He usually counters attacks for a ton of damage, and his abilities are all really solid. He can get angry, in which case he deals even more damage. It's incredible. I don't even know what his abilities are. I think his abilities like gain taunt, empowered, and counterattack or something like that. But I've seen it be used, and it's incredibly frustrating on both offense and defense, whether he's taunted or not. He does a lot of damage, and he has a lot of health, and sometimes that's all you need. So he's right around where Gontu is. So yeah, Donald Duck is really good. Prince Eric. Prince Eric's a weird one, right? Prince Eric is very much a wild card character. I would put Prince Eric at the bottom of C, just for flavor's sake. I'll put him right next to Ariel. Prince Eric, he's a support character, and he does just that. He supports. He does exactly what he needs and nothing more. But I found that the way that he tends to work, he is either the biggest threat ever in a certain fight, or he's worthless, right? there is no in between. It all depends on how often you get the doggo friend to activate. I believe that gives characters vulnerable. and giving some characters vulnerable, just like in the case of Syndrome. Which did we even get to Syndrome yet? I don't even know if we got to Syndrome. Um, I feel like yeah, Syndrome's right there. Yeah, it's really good. He can swing to gain taunt. I don't know. He has some really obscure abilities. Sometimes he can steal. I think he can like steal helpful effects or like steal speed meter or something. Um, but all of his effects are kind of random. Uh, so I found that depending on him is not very good unless you have a way to give him tactics. Um, Again, I haven't played with him. I've just played against him, and I've seen that he either is responsible for me losing, or he sometimes he's even responsible for me winning because his abilities just end up not working all that well. All depends on how well his abilities work, where those chances proc. Yeah, so that's all I really have to say about Prince Eric. Goofy. Goofy's a weird one. Goofy's a weird one, but he's pretty good. Goofy, I would say, is at the top of C. Not way at the top of C, but at the top of C. He's a solid defense character. I think he's much better than somebody like Solly. Um, Solly's in this weird situation where he's trying to be offensive with his big punch, and his only real defensive capability is that he has a ton of health and shield, um, and gains taunt for 1 out of 4 turns. Goofy, on the other hand, I believe his taunt ability. It might be the other way around, right? It might be the other way around, but I think his taunt ability is once every 3 turns, and his moving day ability is once every 4 turns. It might be the other way around, but if it is the other way around, still really good because both those abilities are really good. It's just the difference between how long he's going to be taunted and how long he's going to be cleansing harmful effects from your team. Um, Goofy cleansing harmful effects from all members of your team. That is incredible. And also, he deals a okay amount of damage to everybody. It's not a lot, but it's just kind of like a little cherry on top. But all by itself, getting rid of harmful effects on characters on your team um, is excellent. It's really good. Um, kind of in line with where Merlin is. The difference is Merlin is a much slower character, I believe. I, I don't quote me on this, but I think Merlin is 80 or 85 speed and Goofy is 90. Merlin might be 90 now I think about it. But either way, the fact that Goofy has an ability that costs only 3 magic makes him a little bit better, I think. And also, he's a defense character, so he's looking forward to getting taunt a whole lot. And his dance your cares away ability. You might think that gaining slow is a bad thing for a character, and normally you're right. It is a negative effect. You reduce your speed meter gain. But on Goofy, the defensive character, after getting taunt, that's really good. It's really good to be able to get slow on a character that gives themselves taunt. That means that they're taunted for longer. At later levels, that ability also gives you an evasion, so the very first time you hit them, you just don't. So whoever happens to be going up next, they can just say goodbye to their attack. Um, so like, let's say you use Goofy, and the next character up after Goofy was your opponent's Elsa. You know, if well, maybe Elsa's a bad example, but somebody that only hits single targets. Let's see somebody. Zerg. Let's say your opponent's Zerg is up next, and you wanted to dance your cares away. You could dance your cares away, and then they have to hit you, and in Zerg's case, he has to hit specifically you. He might use the pop gun ability, but either way, it forces him to use that pop gun ability. The one where he fires a whole bunch all at once. Um, so yeah, Goofy's really solid. He's not amazing. He's like a little bit better than some of these other support slash defensive characters, but he's really good. He's really good. All right, Lumiere. Lumiere is obscure, so if you want to compare a character, if you want to have a character to compare to Lumiere, I would compare him not in power level, right, but in what he does to Sorcerer, right? He is a kingdom character, so that gives him some points all by itself. For right now, I'm gonna put him at the bottom of C. Lumiere has an ability that is 3 magic that gives other kingdom characters plus 10 speed meter and damages a character a whole bunch of times, numerous times. Kind of like Sorcerer Mickey's, except the difference is in Sorcerer Mickey's, you're making the opponent's speed meter go down, and in Lumiere's case, you're making random allied characters go up. That randomness element is not great, and also it's better to make the opponent's speed meter go down than it is to make your speed meter go up. Well, with the exception of characters like Cobra, where you can make a character that would otherwise would have gone last go first because they have a sliver of health left. I forgot to mention that in his Call Me Next Time ability, but that is a really solid thing where he can increase the speed meter from basically empty to all the way full. You generally want to pick a character that has a medium amount of health that already has about half their speed meter full, so they can immediately go and not have to rely on wasting the extra tactics that you get from him. But anyway, this is not about Cobra. This is about Lumiere. Lumiere gives extra random character speed meter, which is like Sorcerer's 3 magic ability, but not as good. Um, he can charm not the character that you pick, but the character that has the most offense, which is good for getting around a taunt wall. But Lumiere is really fast, right? Lumiere is just a fast character, so it's not all that great to charm the character that has the most offense whenever you might want to pick a character that's a different choice, right? You might want to pick a character like Ian who can blind one of the allied characters, or a character like Honey Lemon, who I believe slows the target that she attacks. Instead, you just have to pick the character that has the most offense, and if their highest offense character has offense down, then you don't get to charm them instead. Um, so it's sad. It's kind of disappointing because Lumiere is just kind of like Sorcerer Mickey and Jack Sparrow put together, except he doesn't have an ability that hits everybody, and abilities that hit everybody are just really good. Um, so he has all the traits of the two not so good abilities of Sorcerer and Jack Sparrow, and they're not even as good as that. So pretty sad. He's a kingdom character though, so he will get massive amounts of speed bonus from Shan Yu. Maurice, I almost forgot this character exists. Um, I can't judge Maurice honestly, but but there's a big but to Maurice. I get it, big but to Maurice. Okay, anyway, Maurice has some obscure abilities that I think in reading them, right? All I really did was read them. Look like they work really well with a character like, say, Yokai, right? Who summons a lot of minions. I believe he gives a lot of extra speed meter and damage to minions. So you kind of have to build your team around the concept of making minions. And he's also an offense character, so he's just and his abilities rely on having minions, and his one ability relies on having minions, and his other ability summons a minion. So I think not only can I not judge him because I haven't played with him or against him, but I also can't judge him because there's just not a ton of characters that summon minions, right? Like a lot of the spells summon minions, but I think when we get to a meta where there's more characters that summon a lot of minions, I'll have a better idea as to where Murray stands. Also, I need to actually try and play with him. Um, but yeah, he looks cool, right? He looks really awesome. That's all I can really say. Um, I don't even have an impression as to where he sits. I've never seen him be played, and I know he can really easily be obtained. So he could be an F, but from reading him, he gives off the impression of a character that might be in like B or C. So I don't know. I'll have to find out later on. All right, Mrs. Potts. We had to get to her eventually. Mrs. Potts is not as bad as a character like Yzma or Kronk or Cogsworth. In fact, her abilities are kind of decent. Um, she's, but I'm gonna put her at the bottom of E. She's the only character I know. She's the only character I know of that has an active heal every single turn. The thing about that is it's an active heal. Right? You have to spend your turn healing somebody. And I don't think it does anything else besides heal, and it might continuously heal, but it doesn't like cleanse or anything else like that. So it just heals, and her attack is pretty pathetic. So if you get the opportunity to heal, you'll want to heal. You know, if it's a choice between that and attacking. The problem with her and her other ability, the 4 magic ability that attacks all flanking characters and for a pathetic amount of damage and inflicts offense down, is pretty good. It's pretty good. The disappointing part about her is that she is so slow. I mean, she is ridiculously slow. Characters like Woody can heal much better, and then they do so passively. And even Woody's not that great because he's just slow. So the difference between Woody and a character like Mrs. Potts is Mrs. Potts has good active abilities, but she's too slow, and Woody has good passive abilities, but he's too slow. Right? That's the main difference. And passive is generally better than active, assuming the same level of benefit that you get from it, because passive, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to make that decision. It just happens. You don't have to waste a turn doing it. King Triton. I apologize, but I cannot judge King Triton. I've seen him a couple times. The difficult part about him is that it relies on using Ariel. That's pretty much it. The difficult part about using King Triton is that it relies on using Ariel, and Ariel is okay at best, because she's too slow. But like he seems strong, right? He seems strong, but I have to find out later on. Ursula, I've never played with her. I don't think she's even open yet. She might be open. We can see her abilities, but she just has a ridiculous amount of them. I've never seen anybody play as Ursula. I've fought against a boss of Ursula, but I've never played as Ursula or against Ursula. All right, Miguel. Miguel is... Oh, by the way, during the break, I reread Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell has a lot more speed meter than I initially thought. Right? She has a lot more speed meter. So that's why she's so competitive against a small amount of characters, is because she doesn't have that support level 80 speed meter. She actually has, I think, 95 base, which is pretty solid for a support character. And all of her spells are very low level magic cost. So she's usually going to be doing something interesting. The problem is that her basic attack is not very good, just like in the case of Merlin, except Merlin has better abilities, so Merlin does more one-time use stuff. So I think her placement's still good where it is. I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of that while I took a break over the course of time to figure some stuff out. And I took a look at some characters, and I learned a little bit more, so that's always good. All right. So, the reason why I was pointing out that about Tinkerbell is because Miguel sits around the top of D tier. If I could put him at D tier. His abilities all look really cool on paper. And he functions as a decent support. His issue is that he is not a priority target. He is almost always going to be the last defeated. And whenever you defeat him, he comes back. So another reason for him to be the last character defeated. And I believe all of his magic abilities are ridiculously high cost. So while he may be a threat for some of the time, he's not going to be a threat very long, right? He's not going to be a continuous threat. He's going to be a one-time threat. Um, uh, and that threat, I believe, is, purging bad effects on allies, and, I think he can do some heals. I might be wrong about that, but I think he can do some heals. Um, he's just neat. He's an interesting character. I think he's very unique, and I believe he gives some benefit to mythical characters. I think he increases the speed meter of mythical characters as a leadership ability, which is really solid because, giving characters like Hades more speed is really awesome. Um, but he doesn't have like the amazing abilities that, say, Hero might have. Mickey Mouse. Okay, so Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse I am going to put at right around where Wasabi and Honey Lemon are. Mickey Mouse, the original Mickey Mouse, is really good. The thing is, he's good asterisk. He's good asterisk. You have to use him with the Sensational Six team. So the fact that he has to be put on that team kind of kicks him down a bit, maybe down to like the bottom of A. Because most of his extra ability, like one of his major abilities, is every Sensational Six character assists. Right? That's amazing. Like, could you imagine every single team member attacking somebody? That's incredible. But you have to build it with a Sensational Six team. The other ability, which is also incredible, deals a massive amount of damage to all enemy characters, and if any characters are defeated, then it does another instance of damage. It's a multi-hit attack, so I think it hits like 5 times or something. If it kills any characters, it does it goes off one more time. Um, you know, if you're playing this sort of style where you can get characters really low and use that ability, it might pick off a whole bunch all at once or an entire team. Really good. And I believe whenever he dies, he does that automatically, right? He just does all that damage to all the opponent characters right away. So the fact that he has something on death makes him a really good character. The fact that he has anything on death makes him a really good character. The fact that it's such a powerful effect on death makes him an excellent character, even if he has to be played with Sensational Six characters. Donald Duck doesn't really have to be played with Sensational Six characters to be incredible, but Mickey does. I think Mickey is better than Donald when placed on a Sensational Six team, but the fact that he has to be placed on a Sensational Six team to live up to his full potential makes him a little bit lower. Minnie Mouse. Okay. Minnie Mouse is really strong. Really strong. Okay. She can. She throws a cake at somebody, and my goodness, that cake hurts. I think it also causes some type of harmful effect. I think it might be speed down, or slow down rather, which is really good. I don't know for a fact if it's slow down. I just know that every time I get hit with the cake, it's terrifying. And the other thing she does, I believe I've actually been hit with this before. I've been charmed by her. I've gotten 3 of my characters hit with a charm by her. Just simply the fact that she does multi-hit attacks on both of her special abilities, and one of them has a chance to charm on every attack, is amazing. It's so good. I can't tell you how good that is. I think it was actually it has a chance of happening. It doesn't happen every time, and it might have been the case that she had like tactics or something. But either way, like if you charm 3 characters on the opponent's team, that's like game over right there. You just win if you get 3 characters charmed on the opponent's team. The trouble with it is it is a chance effect of happening. It doesn't always happen. It can be resisted. Um, so that's the downside of that. But really solid character, really good. Deals so much damage. Really, really good. Pluto. Pluto. I actually don't have enough knowledge about Pluto to guess where he is. If I had to take a guess, I would say probably somewhere around C. Right, he's good. He can taunt opponent characters. He can taunt opponent characters, but I think it's somewhat random what characters he taunts. Unlike Moana, where she taunts characters that have the lowest health percent, I believe. Um, I could be wrong about that. It might be less random than I'm thinking, but again, I can't judge very much about Pluto. He's an offense character, so because he gives opponent characters taunt, he's going to be comparable to Moana. I think Moana does some things better. The advantage to Pluto is that he's a sensational 6 character, so if you really need a sensational 6 character, Pluto's got your back. Okay, Flynn Rider. I have I can't judge Flynn Rider, but I read his abilities, and they seem really niche and obscure. But there's a lot of them. So that's the thing. Like, he just has a lot of abilities, and they're really obscure. I would put him right around where Miguel is, because just like Miguel, he has a lot of abilities, and he's really obscure. So I would guess top of D for Flynn Rider. It's just a guess. Maximus, I also can't judge because I haven't seen him be used all that much. I think, I don't know. I don't really know what to put for Maximus. I read him. He looked okay. He looked like he was probably like somewhere in D, top of D, bottom of D, which I guess isn't really okay. I guess it's below average, but that's what he looked like to me. Rapunzel, I have absolutely no idea about. The extent to which I know anything about Rapunzel is I've played against her in the tower for her. Same thing with Mother Gothel. Mother Gothel. I don't know how she plays in an actual game. I only played against the very bloated, very powerful versions of them in the tower, or very underpowered versions of them in the tower. If you're a higher level. So, anyway. Oh, I apologize. I do not remember this guy's name. But he's okay. He's okay. He is okay. I would put him toward the bottom of C. He is unique in the fact that he has a ton of speed. But he's also a support that has a ton of speed, and his entire game plan revolves around giving other characters speed. His abilities aren't great, but they're low magic cost, and he gets to use them a whole lot because he has a lot of speed. Having a lot of speed means that you have the capability to get more spells. So let's say, for example, you put him on a team with somebody like Merlin. If you get a lot of turns with Merlin, you get higher chances to use Brain over Brawn. You get more spells. You get more opportunities to use that spell. You can guarantee things with him. And some of his abilities have chance effects of happening and chance effects of doing extra damage. And they revolve around giving other characters speed up. So I think Merlin and this dude really work well together. But that means putting 2 supports on the same team. Which means that you need to make sure that you're putting a good variety of other things on there to offset it. But the problem with doing something like that is these are both supports that don't deal a lot of damage and don't heal anything. And usually you want your supports to help you get your other characters to deal more damage, or if they're like Cobra, they can just deal a lot of damage themselves. Or prevent a lot of damage, or heal by doing so, or heal to do so rather. Pegasus. I read Pegasus. He looks very obscure. He's a defense that's different in the respect that instead of getting taunt, he gets protected. so you can very much control how much your opponent attacks. Um, when I first read him, I thought to myself like, "Hey, that's pretty good." Until I read what protected was, and it's based off of instances of dealing damage, which is different. Um, I don't know. I know that Pegasus is able to be um, put on a team relatively early, and I haven't seen him be used in a whole lot of builds. So my guess would be somewhere at the bottom of C or the top of D. There's a lot of characters that I've picked recently that have been at the top of D, bottom of C. But that's where I would guess. Again, I can't really judge, but if I had to guess, I would say top of D. Hercules, no idea. Too expensive, too rich for my blood. I have no idea what to expect about Hercules. If you read him, he looks amazing, but so does everybody else when you read them. Um, oh, I apologize. I do not remember this person's name, but I also do not know how to judge them, so it's okay. You won't hear me talk about them for very long. Pain and Panic. Pain and Panic are really good. They're not top tier, right? They're not top tier like somebody like Hercules, but they are really good. They're excellent supports. Um, I would put Pain and Panic somewhere around the realm of mid B, probably right above Syndrome. Um, Pain and Panic are the only character I know that have so many clauses in their abilities that say steal the opponent's speed meter. It's enough to reduce speed meter of characters. It's another thing to gain speed meter, but when you steal speed meter, oh my goodness, you're getting turns left and right. And more turns means more spells. More spells means more damage. More turns also means that your opponent's getting less turns, which means they get less opportunities to use spells. Um, you can put characters in stasis, and stasis, why would you ever use Frozone, who's a slower character, whenever you can use a character like Pain and Panic, who does the same thing, puts a character in stasis. It just puts them out of commission for a round. They can't do anything with that character for a round until they come back. It's especially good for getting rid of a taunt wall. It's also good for getting rid of an offensive source. And in addition to that, they just seem to gain evasion like crazy. Anytime anything happens, they seem to get evasion for it. Their clone ability is not actually all that good, but I believe it has a clause in it that also says steal speed meter. Right? There's just clauses left and right in their abilities that their entire kit that say steal speed meter, which is really good. Stealing speed meter and being faster. It's comparable to a character that's just really fast, except it's actually doing something actively. And Pain and Panic are really good with Hades, and Hades is a top tier character, so Pain and Panic are really good. Oh, Phil. I don't know anything about Phil. I'm sorry. I do not know anything about Phil. From what I've read with Phil, and he is a character that you can get relatively early. Um, Phil looks really bad. I mean, like, Phil looks really bad. Like, he looks like Cogsworth levels of bad. Um, maybe a little bit better. Maybe a little bit better than Cogsworth levels of bad, but I read some of his abilities, and they do not look very good. Um, so that's all I really know about Phil. I haven't really played against him. I haven't played with him. I don't really know. I'm not sure. Chip and Dale. Okay, so now we're getting into the realm of characters that I don't know how to judge very well. I believe. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. I cannot judge a single one of these characters for the rest of the characters. So once again, I apologize if like the one of these characters were the characters that you were looking forward to me ranking. But these are the ones that I quite literally know absolutely nothing about. Um, I read the abilities for characters like Wreck-It Ralph and Fix-It Felix. They look okay. Wreck-It Ralph looks a lot better. Wreck-It Ralph has an ability that effectively says this character dies, which is excellent. And he has the speed meter to boot. Wreck-It Ralph looks like he has some solid abilities, but the problem with him is that he has less speed. That's all I really know, though, right? I haven't read too much on these characters. Um, the characters from Jungle Cruise, they appear decidedly average from what I've read about them. In the leadership board that appeared for them when they first appeared. Um, so for all I know, they could probably sit in the realm of C and D. So let's take a moment real quick to run over the characters I was able to judge, going from bottom to top. Yzma, really bad, don't use her. Kronk, really bad, don't use him. In fact, I might even put Kronk as the worst character in the game. I'm sorry, Kronk. Um, I think for poetic justice, though, I'll put Kronk above Yzma because Kronk is a hero and Yzma is a villain, if for no other reason than that. So, I'm sorry, Kronk, you're the worst character in the game, but Yzma, you're going to be officially rated as the worst character in the game, so no hard feelings. Um, Cogsworth is really bad. Um, Monterey Jack is really bad. Uh, Mrs. Potts is getting into the realm of okay, getting into the realm of something that's actually usable in some niche situations. Hopper, Jangles the Clown, um, Baloo, Robin Hood, Mr. Incredible, um, Gaston, Woody, and then we get up to the D tier where we see some characters, the introduction to some characters that are just kind of weird and obscure and used for some really odd scenarios, such as Captain Hook, Jesse, Rafiki, Barley, Jack Skellington, Genie, uh, Merida, Sheriff of Nottingham, Violet, uh, Smells Like Strawberries, Lotso. Thank you very much. Lotso. Smells like strawberries. We have Tinkerbell, um, and also Miguel. Coming up to C tier, we have some characters that make a bit more use, get a bit more use out of them, um, and they're decidedly average, if not toward the top. They might be even above average. We have characters like this character from Hercules, whose name I do not know, but is really fast support boy. Um, we have Lumiere, we have the Manticore, we have Eric, we have Ariel, and of course we got that little bit of that combo right there of Eric and Ariel. We have Scrooge McDuck, we have Oogie Boogie, we have Sully. There's also I forget the names. I apologize. Shooty McShoot lady who likes Fix It Felix. Sergeant Calhoun. Thank you very much.
I like that description.
I like that description. We have Merlin. We have Big Baby. We have Buzz, and then we get into the realm of some characters that are still in C, but also a little bit better, like Pete, um, uh, Demona, Stitch, Daisy, um, Anger, Mufasa, Madam Mim, Darkwing Duck, Scar, Goofy, and Olaf. Then once we get into B territory, we have some really powerful characters that kind of like break the game a little bit, but they don't break the game massively. They're pretty good. They're significantly above average and they're really strong. Characters like Sally, Mrs. Incredible, Ian, Yokai, Jack Sparrow, Judy Hopps, Mordu. Is that right?
The bear?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mordu. So it turns out I was right in my first guess on that. Um, Sorcerer Mickey, Syndrome, Pain and Panic, Doctor Facilier, Moana, Aladdin, and Mulan, sitting at the top of B. Then once we get into A, we have some characters that really crack the game open. Not as massively much as some characters in S, but we have characters like Mickey and Fred and Hero and Chunk and Quora and Gontu and Donald Duck and Dash We have Jack Jack. We have Wasabi. We have Honey Lemon. We have uh, oh man, my brain's not working right now. I've said this guy's name a million times because he has the interactions with the kingdom benefit, um, and deals a lot of damage. Anyway, this guy, whose name I can't remember because I'm drawing a blank. Um, we also have the Horned King and Big Bad Wolf, Minnie, Go Go Tamago, Sven, and sitting at the top of A, we have Anna. Finally, we have the S characters. The characters that pretty much break the game, make it ridiculous. I mean, we're talking like, do you even have to think about picking these characters? They're just way too good. I mentioned before that one of the characters that should go into here that I do not know enough about would be Baymax, so I'm not sure whether he'd be sitting at the top of S or at the bottom of S, but I've seen him in action. He is really strong, but I don't know nearly enough about him to make a judgment call on that. But we do have Buzz. That's not Buzz. We have Zerg. We have Cobra Bubbles. We have Davy Jones. We have Hades. There's Jasmine, Elsa, and Kristoff. But that's all beside the point. What did you think? Do you think I'm completely wrong in one of these? Is Yzma actually a secret god tier that I didn't know about? Am I hyping Kristoff up way too much? Is Cobra mediocre despite the fact that I don't know, I've seen him grow in popularity massively over the last 3 weeks? Is Sven crunching on too many carrots? I don't know. Is Merlin a lot better than I say he is? I put him toward the mid bottom of C. I've been hearing a lot of good things about Merlin. Should Merlin be higher? Should Merlin be higher than Big Baby? Tell me your thoughts. Who's better? Is it Big Baby or Merlin? I want to know who's better. Please let me know. Thank you very much, and have a good night.